Didn't know it's going. I started doing workshops and doing groups where I'm getting up in front of others, like outside of the gym setting, and talking about resilience and perseverance and goal setting and vision and taking action. You should know what 1 hour of your time is worth. You should know the value that you bring to the marketplace. You know what your passion is. Starts with clarity of vision. If you don't have the clarity of vision, whatever next thing you get, you're not going to see it through because you don't have the clarity of vision. So the point of my pain was being told you will never run or jump again. And all that stuff, I was like, you know what? Like, I want to be able to take this even bigger. If you know why you do what you do, you have to know how to charge for what you do. That's how you're going to change your life, and that's how you're going to leave a legacy for your children and your family. You got to know your worth. This is Rob, and I am back with episode number 347 of Shut Up and Grind. We were all about overcoming obstacles, defying the odds, and inspiring you to break through whatever is keeping you from the success that you want in this lifetime. So I'm going to give you today's tip, right? So you see the words on the screen behind me: empower, inspire, ignite, and unleash. And the best way for you to do that is to be yourself. Show up and be you. Authenticity is key. That's why I'm here. I show up in a tank top. I was told that I wouldn't be taken seriously as a speaker if I showed up in a tank top, but I manage a gym and I'm an athlete. This is what I wear. I don't wear three-piece suits. I don't wear shirt and tie. So whether you're on my platform, whether I show up on other people's platforms, I show up as me, right? It's not about that. It's about being the inspiration to other people so they show up as their authentic self. Like, that's where a lot of stress and anxiety and depression and all that stuff is, because people are living a lie, right? They're living a lie. They're not living up to who they truly are at their core. And so when you show up authentically, where you're meant to be, all those opportunities, all those doors, they're going to open up for exactly where you want to be in your life. So that's my tip of the day. So today we're going to be talking about grief, grit, and guarding what matters most. And helping me have this conversation is Susan Beth Miller. She will reveal the psychological truths and storytelling magic behind a novel about loss, belonging, and the power to protect what you cherish. Susan, welcome to the show. How we doing?
Hi, Rob. I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing great, thank you. Where you joining me from?
I'm in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Michigan, nice. Are you originally from there?
I'm not. I'm originally from Chicago.
Oh, okay. So what brought you there?
Here, well, I came here for college quite a few years ago. Kept going back to school. And by the time I finished, I had roots here that were pretty deep. So I have stayed here.
Okay. All right. And I'm assuming you like it there.
I do like it here. I still have roots in Chicago. I'm a little torn sometimes, but I do.
Okay, good. So let's dive in. So tell me a little bit about yourself. How would you describe yourself?
Okay, so you told me no resume, so I'm not going to give you a resume. And I had a minute to think about that question. I think at my core, one of the things is that I'm a persistent person. I read something once about people who are accomplished, usually not necessarily being more talented, but more what I think of as stubborn. So yes. when I want to accomplish something, I dig in and I stick with it. So I think that's part of me. I also am pretty, I don't want to say task oriented because that sounds kind of stiff. I like to make things. That's very close to my core. I like to accomplish things. I especially like to make things. That gives me a lot of joy in life. So I suppose those two things, liking to accomplish things, especially making things, and sticking with it, being willing to stick with things for quite a while.
Okay, I like it. I like it. See how tough that was for you to answer. That's why I tell people before we go live, because before, because before I would just ask people, and we start the show with people like, oh, that's a great question. Like I've never been asked that before, you know. So like I'm gonna have to start, let them take the
Yeah,
intro
yeah.
of piece together what they want to say. Because when I'm on platforms and people ask me that, I give a one-word answer. I'm like competitor. If I had to
Oh,
describe
okay.
myself at my core, I am a competitor. So whatever challenge life throws at me, I look at it through the lens of a competitor. It's like, it's not like, why is this happening to me? It's like, all right, we're going to get through this, So with you, how would you describe your upbringing?
My upbringing, I guess, okay, I'll give you a one-word answer, which was challenging, or maybe very challenging. Just
Okay.
difficult. I mean, not in all respects. So I don't want to overstate that, because in some ways there was support and resources to help, education, important things, and not everybody has. So that
Yes.
was there, but my family situation was very difficult. So a lot of impediments to overcome there. Not all, again, there's balance, good and bad, tough and not so tough, but challenging.
Okay. All right. So what were some of the challenges?
A parent with severe problems, mental illness, drug abuse. So that was a big thing that led to a lot of family conflict, a lot of instability, a whole lot of being on your own and trying to find your own way. And that was good in some respects, I think, maybe made made me who I am in some ways, but also kids, left to their own devices, can make good and not good decisions, or draw accurate and inaccurate conclusions. So mixed bag.
Hmm. Okay. And how did that affect you?
Well, in a lot of ways, I think it affected maybe my choice of profession as a clinical psychologist.
Hmm.
Um, I think it also affected my investment in writing in a number of ways, but definitely it did influence that. So those were good influences, I'd say, that
Yes.
it had, ways that um, difficulty led to defining yourself, or having a future for yourself that gives you uh, not just mastery, but enjoyment and fulfillment.
Hmm. All right. In those moments, though, like in those moments when you're within the conflict, like what did you use as an outlet
As a kid growing up,
as a kid? Yes.
um, well, I'd say a few things: books, nature, creativity. So those are the more alone things, and I
Yes.
think that the situation I was in did help me develop those resources that you can use on your own. You might bring them into a relationship with somebody else, but you don't necessarily need somebody else to develop those resources.
Mm.
I mean, I also had friends, and I had some family that I could rely on, but I do think of those things that were the things I could do on my own, that I turned to those more.
Okay. So when you look back on that, do you think a lot of that time has shaped who you are now?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I definitely see that kid in who I am now. Yeah. And
So,
a lot of
go
the
ahead.
things that I, came to love then, like nature, plants, animals, like wild animals, domesticated animals,
Mm,
um, art, all those things, are still part of me.
okay. And how did it not break you?
In some ways, I think it did. But
Okay.
then, so you get broken, and then you either lie on the floor or you, figure out how to crawl and then how to. So in some ways it did, not in all ways, but and then I had to find ways to get stronger, to recover, to kind of find myself, um, understand my relationship to my family. So a lot of work along the way.
So was there a breaking point where you were just like, I need to turn this around?
I don't think there was a particular breaking point. I think more for me, it was a sense of ongoing struggle, difficulty, not a sense that, oh my God, I'm on the wrong track and I have to stop and change course. So
Okay.
I would tend to get onto a decent course, make pretty good decisions, but then sometimes had difficulty carrying out the things that I wanted to carry out because of some of the baggage I was bringing with me.
Mm.
But the course itself would be okay if I could, stick with it. Yeah.
Okay, that's right. So one last question about the past, and then we'll start shifting towards how you got to where you are now. But like I ask very methodical questions because I try to see how your past ties into your current status. So that's why like when I look at people's profiles and stuff, they have like their preferred questions, and I look at those preferred questions sometimes, and I'm like, I don't want to know any of that. It's like
Okay.
I want to know how you forged through the trials because again, that's what this show is about. So the audience are people who are typically stuck in a rut somewhere,
Mhm.
and
Okay.
so it's like that's why I keep asking like deeper questions about what you went through, right? So the last one is how would you describe your relationship with your parents? Because like I'm currently going through this with my kids, because well, there's no handbook to parenting, so it's like, I mean, I'm not gonna say my upbringing. My upbringing wasn't bad by any means, but my father, he could be, a little tyrannical at times, but the good but the good times far outweighed the bad times. But just now,
Yeah.
my kids are focused on the bad times, and they're just overlooking all of the good times that we had. So, how would you describe your relationship with your parents?
Well, I'll just say if your kids focus on the bad times, it's not such a bad sign because they maybe feel safe enough with you and comfortable enough to complain about the bad stuff. So maybe you
Mm,
have to get through that to get to the good stuff later.
okay,
Uh,
okay,
so hang in there.
I'm
Uh,
hanging.
but my parents, of course, most my parents are deceased now. I lost my dad to COVID. He was
Oh,
98,
oh
but
wow.
yeah, he was 98. So the relationship I had with each of my parents was quite different. My mother, because of the severity of her mental illness and the nature of it, and the drug problems, it was really hard to relate to her. Often it was a matter of trying to keep distance from her at the same time as I did care about her and felt compassion for her. And I sometimes miss her, even despite all the problems. My father was a very different person, an accomplished, kind of confident person. Um, and I was quite close to him, although also there were limits, things that I wasn't comfortable sort of dealing with him. So there might be some regrets there. But on balance, he offered a really good model for living a good life, like a productive life where you accomplish some things and do some good in the world. So he was kind of my rock when I was a kid.
Okay. So
And
you
then I
touched
had
on it. Oh,
step
sorry.
parents. I was just going to say there were step parents in the mix too. So,
Ah,
that
okay.
can
And
complicate.
how did that go?
Uh, it could have gone better. I'll put it that way.
Okay. Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So you touched on it a little bit earlier about how your upbringing led to you becoming a clinical psychologist, but I just want you to go a little deeper into why you chose that profession.
Yeah, I think initially I was just choosing to study psychology uh, because, it was something that people commonly took classes in college. I wasn't anticipating at that point becoming a psychologist, but I started to take classes and it was very interesting to me, certain aspects. And I think maybe especially so because I had a pretty complicated background. I was trying to understand it. So this offered some tools, some resources. Um, but at the same time as I was studying it, I had this pretty deep love of writing that had been in me since I was a kid. Maybe 9 years old is when I think I first got pretty interested in that. So in some ways that was always present, and becoming a psychologist was in part I needed to make a living. I knew enough to know that it was a fool's errand to decide you were going to write novels and pay your bills, right?
Hmm.
Very unlikely to happen. Could, but don't count on it. So I needed a profession, and the psychology was interesting to me. So, okay, that was it. And I did do some work as a younger person, volunteering, then working in different mental health settings. And I found myself connecting with people, feeling like I was interested in them. I had something to offer. So it seemed like a reasonable profession.
Okay. So when you first graduated, what happened from there?
Graduated, you're talking about college now, or you're talking
College,
about
college.
college? Well, college, of course, if you want to be a psychologist, you got to keep going to school for a long
Hmm.
time. So in my field, after you get a bachelor's degree, a master's degree generally doesn't do too much for you in psychology. You got to get a doctorate.
Okay.
So that's going to add quite a few years to your years in school. So
Yes.
when I first graduated, I did get a job for a while as what did they call it? Like a mental health staff in a state agency. And I worked there for about a year, then got into graduate school and started going down that long road.
Okay. So now you get your PhD. Then what?
Well, then I started to work in the field, but meanwhile, I was still, focusing in my mind on the writing. So trying to balance the two. And in graduate school, I had to put the writing to the side pretty much, but the fiction writing, especially because there's so many requirements to write as part of getting that degree that you really don't have the time and space to go, write a novel on the side or something. You got to
Mm.
write your dissertation or your master's thesis. So the the writing that I was choosing for myself had been put off to the side. So after I got the PhD and I'm out working, I could see the opportunity opening up to begin to balance out these two interests again.
Okay. And what was that opportunity?
Just the fact that I now had the time, I didn't have to write something that somebody else was assigning to me. So the first
Mm,
thing that happened, I had written a dissertation to get my doctorate, and that was on the topic was shame. Um, Not exactly my first choice, but influenced by an advisor. That was the topic, and I had written a long kind of discursive dissertation, and my dad, who, as I said, was an ambitious person and had written a book or two, said to me, well, why don't you try and get that published as a book? So I had
mm.
not given that a thought, but I did then think about it, and I'm like, okay, let's send it out somewhere. So I sent out an inquiry letter. Didn't really know much about what I was doing, but I sent it to some publishers. And one editor wrote me back. I remember this man's name because he helped me a lot. It was many years ago, and his name was Baxter Venables. He sounded like a Dickens character or something.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. And he said to me, you're going about this all wrong. I was a psychology editor. Well, he was a different kind of editor in a previous period, and he gave me some advice. He said, this is what you should do. And then he even gave me the name of a publisher who he thought might be interested in this book, and I wrote to them, and sure enough, that was my first published book. So
No
I
kidding.
owed a debt of gratitude. I think I did write a thank you letter to Baxter
Hmm.
Venables.
Nice. And so what was the main takeaway from that book?
So that book, now I have published, I think it's 5 psychology books, and then more and more shifted into fiction. Um, but the 2 of the books were on shame. That one, the main takeaway, that book was written a long time ago. Um, so it's a little bit hard for me to summarize that for you. But
Okay.
shame basically, I think people get a little confused about the relationship between, say, shame and guilt, or sometimes shame and related emotions like embarrassment. But shame, is basically your relationship to yourself and your assessment of yourself, your sense of whether what you're doing, what you're feeling, what you're producing is of value, or um, and gives you pleasure or pride, or whether it gives you pain because you feel that it's deficient or something that you'd rather hide rather than share or reveal.
Yes. And that keeps people back in so many different ways. Like whether it's in business or pursuing what you want to do. And especially as we get older, people are like afraid to have fun. It's like, I'm 50. I have no problems going to a playground and swinging.
Yeah,
Right? If I want to swing, I'm gonna go and swing. It's like
yeah,
I dropped shame probably 10 years ago, and it's like this is my life to live. I can do what I want to do. I get on stages. I say what I want to say. Like I mentioned in my intro about my tank top. This is me. This is who I am. Like if you want to hear my message, you're getting me as me. Like that's just how it is. But so many people can't get to that place. So when you were writing your dissertation on shame, see if you can remember, what was your motivation for picking that topic?
Mhm. Well, to be perfectly honest, that was not my first choice. I wanted to write about disgust, which is an
Mm,
emotion that I later wrote a book about. And I was influenced to write about shame by an advisor who was very adamant that it,
Yes.
was a better topic. In some ways, I was less inclined to write about it because it is an emotion that's rooted in, it's painful, and it's about feeling small and kind of contracted. And in some ways, I wasn't so eager to investigate that state because it's such an unpleasant state. So, I guess that you asked me what motivated me to write about it. It was an external motivation.
I was just trying to
Yeah.
trying to get another direction to get the takeaway from
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
like when I was writing mine, like the takeaway is like you can do it. No matter what it is, you can do it. So I was just curious as you were doing the writing, like
Yeah.
what did you want the reader to take away?
Yeah. Well, that was such a long time ago. It's hard to say, but I'd say
Yeah.
now, that emotions, especially shame, they live in a relationship between people. They're developed in relationships, right? When you're growing up, it's your interactions with your parents and other people that promote feeling shame or not. And so often the way through involves other people. So if somebody's struggling a lot with shame, you can try and help yourself. Do try and help yourself. But if you're finding that you're stuck, that there's a lot of impediments, that is the time to bring somebody else into the mix. So that's the time to get a good therapist or some kind of a person who you think has some knowledge or wisdom, and try and walk that road together, because there's a lot of benefit to that. Sometimes it's not something a person sort of plows through on their own.
Yeah, like some people can, but like a lot of people can't, and they're afraid to ask for help. And help, like, we were designed to work together. It's like,
We were.
like we're not designed to go through life alone. I mean, I don't want to sound like a hypocrite, but like I tend to just plow through life myself. Like challenges arise, I get through the challenge and I keep moving forward. Because I'm on a mission to inspire people. It's like I don't have time to feel all those other emotions. But that's just me. Like I taught 4 fitness classes today. I have a personal training session. You're on my show. Right after this, I'm on somebody else's show. I coach high school track and field. You know what I mean? It's like, and I have kids. So it's like, I have to show up. I just don't have time to let the outside world consume me. And again, like, that's not saying like I'm not human. Like I do feel things. Like I said, I was having issues with a couple of my kids. But I still have to show up. It's like I can't let that consume me. So when you're working, and now I know you have HIPAA, so like I don't want you to give me any specific instances, but just how often do you deal with that, where people let their external situations consume them?
Well, people do that. They don't intend to, but it just sometimes, people do feel defeated or overwhelmed, or they just or lost, like they just don't have the resources. And often people, or you hope people will find their way at those times to ask for some help. And me coming into it, I'm looking at their life through a different set of eyes and different perspective and different background. So I might be able to see things that they're not seeing themselves, and give them some guidance to get them on. I mean, the whole idea of therapy is that you get people to where they do have access to their own energy and their own resources, and they want to live their own life again and
I
feel
love it.
able to.
So that brings me to my next question. Like in any therapist, psychologist that I interview, I ask them all the same question. So now I do not have a like I'm not a therapist. I'm not any of those things, on an college education level. But I've been through a whole lot in my life. I've been through a whole lot, and I've gotten through it all. So my question is, when like modern mental health now, it's like people are so quick to throw people on medication. Now I know there are people that definitely need it, but like, is that the only answer here? Just take this pill for the rest of your life?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
Yeah. And medications, you know, sometimes they're helpful, sometimes they're necessary. They're always a cost benefit assessment because most medications that are powerful enough to affect a person's mental state, they have other, they have side effects. Sometimes they have really problematic side effects. So
Mm.
so no, it is not the only answer. And truthfully, I've seen a great many people who take medications, and when you talk to them about whether the medication is helping, they hem and they haw and they're not sure and maybe.
Mm.
And so that tells you something right there. If it's so unclear, then this is not having a major positive effect. Occasionally, yeah, a person knows this medication really helped me, and then good. Want to support that. But
Okay.
there aren't truthfully too many people who, um, you would want to put on a medication and not also have a relationship with a therapist where kind of looking at the nature of what's bothering that person. Just medication in isolation, generally not the best idea.
Okay. All right. So in your bio, you told a story about Leslie,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So summarize that for me.
Okay, well, Leslie is, just for the listener, is the protagonist, the narrator of a novel that I published end of 2024. And so I had published a few novels, but this is the first young adult novel. Um, and it's the most recent book. It is a story of a young woman who's just going off to college. She's going to the University of Michigan. I decided to pick some place that's familiar to me. And she's dealing with a lot of the things that people deal with when they leave home. They might be going to college, they might be going to the military, or just leaving one city and going to another, but they're leaving home. But in her case, she has some, extra challenges because her mother has died of cancer, not just before she goes, but a year and a half or so before she leaves for college. And she kind of put that away. Her mother died. She didn't process it much, just put it on the shelf. And then off she went to college. And that experience of being in this new setting and all the usual challenges of making friends and dealing with classes start to bring up the unsettled or unfinished business related to not only her mother's death, but questions about who really her mom was and who she was in relation to Leslie, her daughter. So she's trying to deal with this new life and make a new life for herself, but she's also trying to figure out the road she's already traveled.
Yeah, I love that because like I work with people who like don't want to go see a therapist or a coach like that. So I work with people, but on the storytelling side. It's like I don't get into the how the brain works and all this other stuff. Like I mean, I know it somewhat, but I obviously don't know it the way you know it, you know. But so right up above us, it says your true power lies in your story, and I I think a lot of people, they get fixated on what happened instead of the fact that you're still here. Like whatever happened, it didn't break you, right? It didn't break you. I said so. The more you tell the story, like people that listen, I talk about my dad all the time. Like we had to end care for him, so like I watched him die. You know, so like if I get stuck on that moment, I'm never gonna move forward from it. So like when I tell the story about it, you know, you talk about the 1 minute after we left the room because that's where the story begins, right? And I just want to know from your expertise, do you agree with that? That the more people revisit the story, you start finding out more and more fascinating things that happened along the way on your road to getting through it. Like as an expert, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, people's stories are, incredibly sort of personal and unique. And yeah, they can be so valuable in sort of informing who you become. And you're right, though, that people do understandably, but sometimes destructively get hung up on all the deficits of the past rather than sort of the way forward that might be informed by the past. So like in Leslie's case, she's in a sense she's at risk of just getting stuck because she feels there's one image in the book of a vase that's cracked, and so it can't contain anything good. She can't put water and flowers in it because it's cracked, it's broke. And so she's at risk of just getting stuck on that. Like, okay, well, I'm broken. I don't have what it takes. I can't make friends. I can't, become somebody. End of story, right? But obviously, I didn't want her story to end that way. So kind of helping her as a writer to figure out how the path she's traveled might lead to a good path in the future, even though it's got all kinds of problems along the way or difficult experiences along the way.
Yeah, and again, you use the key word is stuck. Like I said in my intro video, a lot of people get stuck because they don't have a vision, right? As I stated earlier, it's like like when things come up, I just get through it because everything that I do, people depend on me, right? It's like people need me to show up, and so it's bigger than just me. So like if I'm tired, but I have to speak on a podcast, right? I need to show up. Like I don't have time to be tired. It's like that I'm here to inspire an audience and here to help people who are stuck, who are having trouble finding their own way, and bringing on guests like you and the other 346 people that I've interviewed about sharing their stories of how they got through it. Like you had a tumultuous start to your life, but you got through it. And that's the thing that I want people to take away every episode that I put on here. It's like, you can get through it. So to someone out there who's listening to this, who feels stuck, what are some words of encouragement for you to get them started?
I was truthfully listening to what you were saying and thinking about how important it is. Sometimes it takes a long time to get there, but to find something that you truly are committed to. And usually it connects you to something larger than yourself. So it could be you're an artist and, the work you produce is very important to you, or could be you're a political activist or you're a podcaster, but something that's worth working for is so important. And then stick with it. I guess the other thing I'd say is you are the author of your own story ultimately. And sometimes people get into such a reactive mode. They're all about the
Yes.
pressures on them. And sometimes in life, you're in tough circumstances and all you can do is react. But when you have the opportunity, try and be the author, not just the character that's getting moved around by circumstance.
I like that example, like that a lot. Like one of the sayings that I say a lot is when you're on fire, you can't see the fire. And if you can't see the
Mm-hmm.
fire, you can't put the fire out.
Mm-hmm.
So meaning the people that stay in the hamster wheel, that hamster wheel of destruction, I call it. You can't see the opportunities that are waving at you. Because the opportunities are there, they're all around, but you're so focused on the struggles that you can't see the opportunities. And again, I lived that firsthand just a couple years ago. I literally lost everything. I dropped my keys on a desk and I walked away from a toxic situation. And for a few weeks there, because like I said, I am human. Right? So for a few weeks there, I did go into just a funk because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't working toward anything. It's like I paused the podcast because my life was in hell, right? So I paused the podcast and I started drinking a lot and I just went into a dark place. And then I restarted my podcast. I was like, dude, I'm like, your show is literally shut up and grind. It's like, what are you doing here? And so I restarted my podcast, and that very first guest just inspired me to get back to doing what I love. Like my show about inspiring others inspired me.
That's
And
great.
and I went to my local high school. I started track coaching because I was going to completely abandon fitness. And I started coaching track, and then that relit the fitness fire. I was like, this is where I belong, helping other people believe in themselves. And then the very first gym that I walked into, this is like I'm sitting in a gym now. You just can't tell with the background. But the first gym I walked into, the owner and I hit it off, and now I'm running one of his locations. But while I was sitting on my bed, feeling sorry for myself, mad at my business partner, like I couldn't see the opportunities that were there. So that's one thing that, again, why this show is out there is to encourage other people to, like, yes, maybe you're going through a tough time, but you got to lift your head up so you can see the opportunity that's like, hey, I'm right here. It's like, this is a way out,
Yeah.
so we have a few minutes left. Is there something you want to discuss that we didn't cover yet?
I was really just listening to you and thinking that I wanted to say that most people go through those tough times too, So I go back to the shame idea that when people go through tough times, often get even tougher because people feel ashamed. Like, what's wrong with me? Why am I defeated? Why am I struggling? Why am I depressed? Well, you're human, and human beings do go through rough periods. So I often tell people, try and play on your own team. Don't play on the opposition. Represent your own team. So because
I love it.
so much of misery comes when you start being trying to defeat yourself with shame and guilt and self-hatred. So
Yep. See, and you said the key word, self. Whether it's like self-awareness, self-love, self-care, self-expression, self-empowerment, like it all begins with the word self. It's like it starts here. Like you can talk to a therapist, you can come and talk to me, you can talk to your best friend. Oh, you can get all the advice from all corners of the world, but nothing's gonna change until you take the first step. Right? And that's what people have to understand. It's like it's within you. It's there already.
yeah,
Like you with your love of writing. Even though you went through school for all those years and you put it off on the back burner, you still went on to write 5 or 6 books, right? Because it was already there. That passion was there. You just had to have the time to let it surface. And then once it surfaced, off you went. So people want to complicate life. And now, like I said, I know there are other cases where people have chemical imbalances and all that other stuff, but for the majority of people, you're in your own way. You're in your own way, and you're just one decision away from getting out of your own way. And again, these are things I've lived. Like, I've been through a lot of stuff. Like, this show was started because I had a bad knee injury and I was told I was never going to run or jump again. Now, 200 races later and 22 track meets later, here we are. And why? Because I decided to not accept that diagnosis. I was like, no, like, I'm not gonna do that. And I worked like a dog for 2 solid years and donated a kidney to my sister in the middle, right? But 2 solid years to make that full recovery. Because I was like, it's like nobody else is gonna dictate my path forward. And again, that's a message of hope, that whether it's my platform or whether I'm about to speak on the Through the Trauma podcast right after this. And it's about giving that hope. Like, when you feel like you have nothing, like, just look inside, because there's something inside of you that's waiting to surface. And once you take your eyes off of the struggles, that person can surface. So those are my final words. Let people know where they can get in touch with you, even though I'm going to have all of your links in the description section, but it's good to hear it from you.
Sure.
And then give us a final word.
Yeah, I do have a website. It's just susanbethmiller.com. I have books listed on the usual platforms, Amazon or Bookshop, which is for independent booksellers. So happy to hear from anyone who would like to be in touch. If you read a book, leave a review. That would be fantastic. Oops, don't need that. Yeah. A final word, I guess, just to invest in yourself. People tend to think that focusing on themselves or taking time for themselves is selfish, but investing in yourself really is the best way to end up investing in others too. You have to have a solid base to be able to contribute something to your family or your community. So take some time for that.
Absolutely. Well, Susan, this was a fabulous conversation. Thank you for taking the time to come out and share your stories and your expertise with myself and the audience. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Rob. Pleasure for me as well.
All right, and I'll be in. I say don't sign out yet, but for the purposes of the show, we'll say goodbye. All right, take care.
You've been listening to Shut Up and Grind. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from this show. Robert has over 20 years experience pouring his knowledge and expertise at many events in the service and fitness industry, as well as secondary schools and universities. He has a true passion for helping others break through the barriers that are holding them back. To book Robert B. Foster to speak or to reach out, go to robertbfoster.com. Till next time, shut up and grind.